We're counting down the 10 New York towns where home prices are so low, you'll honestly think it's a scam. From faded industrial crossroads to rural hamlets where an entire house can cost less than a new SUV, these places defy everything you expect from the Empire State real estate market. What connects them? Rock bottom prices, often under $100,000, masking the deeper costs of population decline, job losses, and economic upheaval. Some entries feature glimmers of revival, others echo with stories of emptiness. Which town ranks as the most unbelievable housing deal? And what's the real price behind the bargain? Let's begin the countdown with number 10. In the 10th place, Gloversville sits at the edge of the Adirondacks with a median home price hovering around $95,000. Once branded the glove capital of the world, the town's main streets were lined with factories producing millions of leather gloves a year. Those jobs disappeared, and so did much of the population, down 8% from its peak. Today, the silence of empty lots and shuttered storefronts tells the story of what's left behind when an industry vanishes. For locals, the numbers are almost surreal. As one resident puts it, you can buy a home here for the price of a truck. The bargain is real, but so are the scars. Cheap homes in Gloversville aren't a secret jackpot. They're the aftershock of deindustrialization. The town's low prices reflect a market where demand faded along with the last glove order, not a sudden burst of opportunity. For buyers drawn by the sticker price, the deeper cost is written into the landscape itself. Number 9, Jamestown sits deep in western New York, where the median home price barely scrapes $90,000. The city's Grand Victorians and tree-lined blocks recall a time when furniture factories powered the local economy. That era ended decades ago. Crawford Furniture, Jamestown Lounge, Blackstone, names that once meant steady work, are now just faded signs on empty warehouses. The collapse left scars. Today, 23% of residents live below the poverty line, and unemployment hovers around 7%. For some, the bargain seems surreal. One couple bought a sprawling Victorian for $80,000, but the beauty comes with a catch: stagnant wages and limited prospects. In Jamestown, affordable is a code word for a market shaped by loss. Services strain under the weight of need, and foreclosure risk shadows every block. The low prices attract dreamers, but the reality is stubborn. Without new jobs or investment, the gap between cheap homes and hard lives keeps growing. Here, the sticker shock is only the beginning of the story. 8th place, Elmira sits in the southern tier with a median home price of about $88,000. Once a bustling stop along the Chemung River, Elmira has lost 20% of its population since 1970. The evidence is everywhere: boarded-up houses, overgrown yards, entire blocks where only a few lights burn at night. One resident puts it simply, "Half my block is empty." The story behind these prices is decades of out-migration. As people left for better jobs in bigger cities, demand for homes faded. Schools have consolidated, local services have shrunk, and the sense of community has thinned. For those who remain, the low cost comes at a price: long stretches of silence where neighbors used to gather, and a constant reminder that affordability often signals absence, not opportunity. Elmira's empty streets aren't a secret waiting to be discovered. They're a sign of what happens when a town slowly drifts away. Number 7. Olean sits tucked among the rolling hills of Cattaraugus County, where the median home price hovers around $85,000. The scenery is classic upstate: tree-lined streets, old brick storefronts, and a river cutting through the valley. But behind the postcard views, Olean faces a quieter struggle. The town's population keeps shrinking, and the economy leans heavily on small businesses trying to survive in a place where demand comes and goes with the seasons. One young cafe owner describes the challenge. Summers bring a trickle of tourists, but the rest of the year, every dollar counts. Locals say it's easy to fall in love with the landscape, but much harder to make a living. The story here isn't about abandoned neighborhoods, it's about the slow erosion of opportunity. For every affordable house, there's a business just barely getting by. In Olean, beauty is everywhere. But without a steady economy, that beauty can feel like a backdrop to uncertainty. The low prices are real, but they come with the risk that tomorrow's customers might not arrive. Number 6. Watertown sits just south of the Canadian border with a median home price around $110,000. The city's fortunes rise and fall with Fort Drum, the massive army base that anchors the local economy. Every few years, as military units rotate in and out, entire neighborhoods shift. Demand for housing surges, then drops, leaving landlords and homeowners guessing what comes next. Vacancy rates swing between 10 and 15%, a volatility that makes it hard for property values to hold steady. One longtime resident sums it up: "It feels like the whole town moves every few years." For families trying to put down roots, the constant churn means a house can be a bargain one year, a burden the next. Unlike towns shaped by slow decline, Watertown's challenge is instability, moments of boom followed by sudden quiet. The low prices may look appealing, but the real story is the uncertainty that shadows every mortgage and lease. Here, affordability is tied not to opportunity, but to the unpredictable tides of a military town. Number 5. Binghamton sits at the crossroads of the Susquehanna River Valley with a median home price near $120,000. Once the proud headquarters of IBM and the birthplace of modern computing, the city was packed with engineers and factory workers earning solid middle-class wages. That era is long gone. Today, Binghamton's median household income lags at $47,000, barely half of what's typical in much of New York State. The city's tech corridor, once a symbol of progress, now feels frozen in time. Property values have barely budged for a decade, with home appreciation charts tracing a flat line. For buyers, the low entry price is tempting, but the trade-off is clear. Opportunity is limited, and the promise of rising value is thin. The houses are affordable, but the jobs that once filled them are not coming back. In Binghamton, the sticker price is only part of the story. The real cost is living in a place where economic momentum has stalled, and the future looks much like the recent past. Number 4. Utica sits in the heart of Oneida County, where the median home price hovers near $130,000. The city's skyline once marked a thriving industrial hub, but half the population has vanished since 1950. Abandoned factories and empty storefronts still cast long shadows, yet Utica's story is shifting. Over the past 2 decades, the city has become a landing spot for refugees from across the globe. Newcomers have filled vacant houses, started restaurants, and brought fresh energy to faded neighborhoods. One Syrian family who bought a home for $70,000 calls it their new beginning. "It's our new beginning," they say, as their children run through a backyard that was overgrown just months before. Local data shows hundreds of formerly empty homes now host families from Iraq, Bosnia, Myanmar, and beyond. The city's main streets buzz with new shops and halal markets. For Utica, affordability isn't just a symptom of decline, it's become the seedbed for renewal. The scars of the past remain, but here, cheap homes have opened the door to a cautious kind of hope, proof that with the right investment, even the most unlikely places can start to turn the corner. Coming to the top 3, Niagara Falls is a name that conjures up images of roaring water and honeymoon getaways. But step away from the edge of the gorge, and the story shifts. The median home price sits around $100,000, barely a fraction of what you would expect for a city with global recognition. Yet nearly 1 in 5 houses stand vacant, and the poverty rate hovers at 27%. The disconnect is hard to miss. Tourists pour in by the millions each year, snapping photos of the falls and buying souvenirs, but the money rarely finds its way into the neighborhoods. Many jobs are seasonal, low-wage, or tied to national chains, leaving little for local families to build on. Ownership patterns tell another part of the story. Investors and absentee landlords snap up cheap properties, sometimes letting them sit empty for years. One longtime resident puts it bluntly, $1,000,000 views, $40,000 houses. The spectacle of the falls masks a local economy that has struggled for decades with job loss and outmigration. For buyers, the price tags might look like a dream, but the reality is a city where cheap property signals deep distress. In Niagara Falls, affordability means living with the paradox: global fame on one side, empty streets on the other. The falls keep roaring, but for many locals, the promise of prosperity is still just out of reach. Number 2, Buffalo stands at the crossroads of hope and hard math. The city's median home price, around $165,000, looks like a bargain compared to the state average. For years, Buffalo has been branded as a comeback story: new breweries, art spaces, and a slow but steady population uptick. But for many buyers, the real shock isn't the sticker price, it's what comes after. Taxes and insurance have jumped 35% since 2020, according to Bankrate's latest figures. That means monthly carrying costs can erase any sense of a deal. One couple bought a fixer-upper for $85,000, thinking they'd finally found a way into homeownership. Within a year, rising property taxes and insurance premiums ate through their savings, leaving less for repairs and emergencies. The math is relentless. Even with a modest mortgage, the true cost of owning in Buffalo keeps climbing. Local officials point to aging infrastructure and budget gaps as reasons for the higher bills. Insurance companies, facing more claims from severe weather, have hiked premiums across the region. For longtime residents, the city's transformation feels bittersweet. More energy, more investment, but also more financial pressure on those trying to stay. Buffalo's low prices draw headlines, but the hidden costs reveal a different story. In a place where affordability once seemed guaranteed, the ground is shifting. The lesson is clear: price alone doesn't buy security. And in Buffalo, even the comeback city isn't immune to the forces reshaping the American housing market. And finally, in first place, Little Falls sits quietly along the Erie Canal with a median home price of just $80,000. Fewer than 5,000 people call this town home, making it one of the smallest and most isolated communities on the list. The streets are peaceful, sometimes eerily so, with long stretches between passing cars and whole blocks where the only sound is the wind rattling old porch swings. For newcomers, the allure is obvious. A retired couple from Long Island describes their first visit. It felt too good to be true. They bought a two-story house for less than the cost of their old SUV, trading city noise for morning mist and silence. But in Little Falls, affordability comes with a catch. The nearest hospital is half an hour away. Grocery trips often mean a drive to Herkimer or Utica. Public transportation is rare, and jobs are scarcer still. Many storefronts are dark by dinner time, and neighbors may be miles apart. The town's shrinking population means fewer services and a sense of emptiness that lingers after sunset. For some, that solitude is a blessing. For others, it's a reminder of what's missing. In Little Falls, the price of a home is almost unbelievably low. But the real cost is measured in distance from jobs, from healthcare, from the bustle of daily life. Here, affordable can mean abandoned. The story ends not with a jackpot, but with a question. When a place is this quiet, is the bargain worth the silence? From Gloversville's bargain homes to Little Falls' almost unbelievable $80,000 median, our countdown has shown that New York's cheapest towns aren't urban legends. They're living case studies in economic change. Across all 10 entries, a clear pattern emerged. Ultra-low home prices often reflect years of industrial decline, chronic population loss, or deep-rooted poverty, not hidden opportunity. The most surprising stops, like Niagara Falls, where million-dollar views hide staggering vacancy and poverty, prove that even famous destinations aren't immune. Even Buffalo, once a comeback story, now faces affordability squeezed by rising taxes and insurance, reminding us that low sticker prices rarely tell the full story. These towns qualified for the list because their homes cost a fraction of the state median, but in every case, that affordability comes with trade-offs. Whether it's job scarcity, isolation, or a fraying community fabric. The real lesson? In New York, cheap homes are often a symptom of something bigger, an economy and a way of life that's still searching for a future. Which of these towns surprised you most, and would you move somewhere this cheap? Let's talk below.